we're going to hear the story of a startup from within a established brand. So the process that the Drillers organization went through to consider starting a soccer club, to move through that, and to bring the Roughnecks to town. So today we're going to hear from Jason George. He's the executive VP and the assistant GM, is that right? And he's going to walk us through that process, and I think then we'll have our question and answer time. So Jason, welcome.
Thank you, Randy. It's an honor to be here. I appreciate we're always looking for an opportunity to talk to folks and tell our story and get the message out about all the awesome things that are happening at One Oak Field. How many of you guys have been to One Oak Field so far? I mean, this is actually our 6th season at One Oak Field, so this is our 1st season with the Roughnecks. How many of you guys have been to a Roughnecks game? Okay, a couple of them? Good. Thank you for coming. So I just kind of want to give a little bit of a brief outline of some of the things that happened leading up to this inaugural season. We are just about to wrap up this upcoming Sunday, September the 6th, is our last regular season home game for the Roughnecks. They're still kind of vying for playoff position and still have an opportunity to win on Sunday against kind of our arch rivals from Oklahoma City, the Oklahoma City Energy. And if we win that game, it really puts us in an opportunity, the best opportunity obviously, to make the playoffs. So we're excited about that, have our last regular season home game. Are many of you guys from Tulsa and can remember back to the old Roughnecks experience? Some of you, a lot of heads nodding, some of you not. Tulsa really has a very rich soccer history. Back from 1978 to 1984, the Roughnecks played at Old Skelly Stadium, and often we're drawing 20 to 30,000 fans. Not every single game, but during the 1981, 82, 83 seasons, they were averaging 15 to 17,000 fans per game over about an 18-game home schedule. So that was pretty significant. And that was back in the league that was called the NASL, North American Soccer League. And that was the preeminent soccer league, kind of what was the precursor to today's MLS. It was the highest level of soccer. And Tulsa actually won that championship called the Soccer Bowl in 1983. And it is still the city's only Major League Championship trophy and Major League Championship in the city. And it really kind of galvanized. This is before the dawn of sports marketing and dawn of sports sales teams and those kind of things. They put a great product on the field, and Tulsa really flocked to Skelly Stadium. So we felt like, from an organizational perspective, soccer has a rich history here that we may be able to capitalize on. In 2013 is when these discussions began to take a little bit closer discussion for us. There was some rumors of an ownership group that was looking to bring what was now called it's still called the NASL. Soccer's got a lot of different organizations and leagues within it, so it's not quite as structured as minor league baseball is. But there was another organization that was looking to bring an outdoor professional soccer team to both Oklahoma City and to Tulsa. And there was, in Oklahoma City, there was an ownership group that was trying to bring a different league of soccer into Oklahoma City and into Tulsa. They were kind of competing from an ownership perspective on trying to be the first to land a soccer team in Oklahoma. And there's an organization called Prodigal. The ownership group that ended up having success with that was an organization called Prodigal, and they were previous owners of the Oklahoma City Blazers, the hockey team in Oklahoma City, as well as the Red Hawks. So, or the old 89ers, if you guys can remember that brand a little bit. That was the ownership. So they had some experience in owning and operating sports teams. And we knew their ownership and we knew their general management, their executive management team. And we had some discussions behind closed doors about their pursuit of bringing outdoor professional soccer to town, ultimately in Oklahoma City and in Tulsa. They were focused primarily with their efforts in Oklahoma City, but they had kind of retained the rights to bring it to Tulsa as well. And they were looking for somebody to kind of operate it. So we really had an opportunity there to move back in 2013 to be, we felt like, I think that ultimately if it would have come into Tulsa, if outdoor professional soccer would have come to Tulsa, it could have been a significant competition to what the Drillers do. Because the seasons are concurrent. They both start in late March, early April, and run till about Labor Day. And we felt like with soccer's popularity, especially in youth soccer in Tulsa, that it really could have some competition, some negative impact on our business from a minor league baseball perspective. So we wanted to kind of get ahead of the curve. It was still hush-hush publicly, nothing was going on. And because we knew the folks that were operating it, we kind of jumped on the opportunity to take a majority ownership interest in the Tulsa soccer team called, they weren't named anything at the time, but it was from the USL, the United Soccer League was the name of the organization that we chose to be with. I'll tell you a little bit more about that. So, long story short, we secured a majority interest in the team and agreed to own and operate it out of One Oak Field. We felt like that's the best venue in town, and that's kind of what happened. We made the announcement of Tulsa soccer, outdoor professional soccer, in December of 2013. There's a photo from that. You know, there was a lot of hubbub. There's been, because of Tulsa, you know, the Tulsa Roughnecks and the history and the lineage and really the homage that's paid back to that team and that organization. There was a lot of soccer enthusiasts that were somewhat against us using the name Tulsa Roughnecks. And I think some of that, and we recognized, you know, that concern, because we're not at the same level of soccer. It's not at the highest level in North America in Major League Soccer. But there have been a lot of examples of cities rebirthing the brands of those organizations, because it is what Tulsa soccer is from a highest level of standpoint. But we didn't want to make that decision to the general public and potentially outcast the folks that are the true soccer enthusiasts by just throwing the name out there and saying, hey, this is what we're going to do. Soccer, we know that soccer fans and soccer people, it has very much an entrepreneurial spirit. It has very much an organic type of spirit. They want to be involved in all steps along the way. So we were very cautious about that. So what we did was we did a name the team contest that we felt like was honest and putting out there, both in recognition of getting some more awareness in the general public about the organization that was coming to town, but also validating whether Tulsa indeed wanted the name Tulsa Roughnecks. And by an overwhelming majority, I think it was 54% greater than anything else in terms of the names that were out there, was the overwhelming majority for the Tulsa Roughnecks. So we were happy and pleased with that, and ultimately brought back the name Tulsa Roughnecks. We didn't, however, want to keep the brand from a logo and from a color standpoint identical. We felt like because it's not the same organization, it's not the same team, it's not the same ownership group, it's not playing in the same league, we felt like it needed a new identity. Same name, but a new identity. So we did some research. We've worked on the baseball side of things with some excellent branding companies that we worked with in developing some corporate logos. And these were some of the thoughts that we had. You know, we had discussed, you see a lot of branding there that's related to the Golden Driller. You see a lot of stuff there that's kind of related to flames and the oil derrick. So we were really kind of torn a little bit about trying to be different than the Drillers. We wanted, I think, some of the things that we kept in mind with respect to the logo development was differentiating its look and feel from the Drillers' perspective. We didn't want, you know, we thought a lot about when fans come to a soccer match with One Oak Field, what's the look and the feel different? You know, what are some similarities that we can cross over? What are some ways that we can be different? And blue is a color that is in the Drillers logo that we felt like was pretty strong, but we kind of have a different nuance in blue on the Roughnecks perspective. This is the ultimate logo that we chose to go with. We feel like it's very bold and very simple. You know, simple was a key element to us, something that is instantly recognizable. When you see that crest, the logo there on the left is the primary logo. That is the logo that's on our left chest. And the navy blue that's in that logo, we felt like enhances the navy blue seats that are at One Oak Field, and there are some similarities that make you feel at home with the Roughnecks brand, but the orange is really a separate color. It's not used at all in any Drillers type of branding, and we felt like that was really a distinguishing look and feel to what we had going on at One Oak Field. So be more than willing to talk more about that, but I'll move along just in the respect of time here. So the other thing that we wanted to do is we wanted to have a theme. You know, we wanted to come up with a way to kind of bring together, from a marketing perspective, a concept and a theme that we felt like could remain strong, and we worked with Walsh Branding, with that they're neighbors of ours in the Brady Arts District, and we love the folks over at Walsh, and we ultimately agreed to this concept of plan to stand. I don't know if you guys have seen that in the market, but we felt like that made a great reference to a lot of things about what soccer is and what you can expect to have happen, or your experience at One Oak Field. So the plan to stand for the brand, the plan to stand for your team, the plan to stand up while you're at the game. We felt like it had a lot of good meat on the bone, and gave us enough flexibility to work with to do that. We really continued that plan to stand theme throughout this inaugural season. We also worked with Walsh on that inaugural season logo that you see there, that brings to life our downtown location, and that's been kind of a recurring thing that we like to promote is our involvement in downtown Tulsa. It's a big aspect of what One Oak Field is. We're extremely appreciative of the folks that made One Oak Field come to life, and I think that we are always cognizant of being reminded that we're very fortunate and very much a part of the puzzle, not the key ingredient, but just a part of the puzzle which making downtown Tulsa come back to life. Here's the USL. The USL is one of the reasons that we chose this league versus the opposing league that I talked about initially, was the fact that the USL really is growing by leaps and bounds the last couple of years. The USL also has an affiliation relationship with Major League Soccer. And the affiliation relationship is not identical to what Major League Baseball and minor league baseball have with respect to affiliations. As you know, on the baseball side, all major league teams have this family of farm teams and affiliation agreements where they have single A and double A and triple A teams, and all the players that play for the Dodgers, for example, go through these affiliated teams and throughout the country, and they move up progressively through the system. That's a system on a baseball perspective that has been derived and reformatted and finally to what we know it today, but it's been over 100 years in that's development. In the United States, soccer is not nearly that old, and soccer is really kind of going through a frontier land, if you will, about its development of players throughout North America. So we were excited about the opportunity that MLS had in some of the relationships. The MLS had indicated that they would like to have all the MLS teams have an affiliate, meaning that they would be able to loan some players and put some players that are on their MLS rosters down to some of these teams in the USL. And what ultimately has occurred since that announcement was made 2 years ago, many of the MLS teams have acquired an ownership and own their own brands in the USL. So we have a lot of Major League Soccer teams that own teams now in our league. Some of the logos here that you see are the LA Galaxy. They own a team in our league. The Seattle Sounders own a team in our league. The Portland Timbers, which is another very successful team in Portland, own a team in our league. And there are others that are coming online soon that also own teams in our league. So we're not sure exactly how that's going to take shape in terms of the competitive balance within the league, but we'll see how those things happen. But it's a really interesting time to be a part of the USL. 2 years ago, the USL had 14 teams in the league. Now they have 24 teams in the league. Next year they will have around 29 or 30 teams in the league. So it's massive expansion right now in our league. We feel like that's a really good place for us to be because of the growth and because of the brand power that we feel like we can promote to bring the Galaxy 2 team in, or the Seattle Sounders 2 team, and we felt it really gave the league some credibility. So why Tulsa? And why now? We had done a lot of research and backstory about soccer, and soccer's growing popularity in the United States. Soccer is the #2 favorite sport, research tells us, for adolescents that are 12 to 24 years old. only behind the NFL. Their favorite sports of the young up-and-coming generation is soccer. And we feel like that will continue to grow as those young people grow into adulthood. We feel like that bodes very, very well for us. Another research study that's interesting about Tulsa is that Tulsa continually ranks top 5, top 7 in television ratings for European soccer and World Cup soccer. It's crazy that the enthusiasm that core soccer fans in Tulsa have. There's a lot of eyeballs in Tulsa watching soccer. And we feel like that will translate well if we're able to put a good product on the field, put a good game experience together. We feel like that will translate potentially long term for us in a very positive manner. There's also about 17,000 youth soccer players participating in youth soccer. That number continues to grow. So we're excited about some of the relationships that we currently have on the baseball side of these youth organizations and being able to develop some of the relationships that we can have on the youth soccer side. So we feel like there's a very high ceiling and a very much a curve of heading upward with respect to why Tulsa and why now. The other thing is we feel like, and there's been a lot of business support, a lot of community and corporate support behind the concept of if Tulsa is going to have any opportunity for a major league team to come to town, soccer is our best bet. Soccer is our best sport potentially for that. Not only because of the history, but because now we own a team and now we can kind of prove our success potentially. If people come out for soccer in Tulsa, there's an opportunity. We had been there before. The Roughnecks were at the highest level of soccer previously. We want to kind of galvanize the community, both the corporate community and the fan-based community. And if we're, Oklahoma City already has the Thunder, why not Tulsa? Why not Tulsa have a major league team in the MLS? And there's a lot of support potentially for that. We realize and recognize that it won't continue. That growth won't continue to happen at Royal Field. They'll probably need to get a very much a soccer-specific stadium. We recognize that. We are not in a position to take control of those things. We'll pass the baton if need be and let people that are from a bigger scope and a bigger vision have the opportunity to handle that. But we recognize that there is a groundswell of those things occurring now. And we want to encourage this. We want to open the dialogue, and we want to make sure that people know that, hey, there really is an opportunity here potentially if we have success both on and off the field. So those are the things that we can control mostly, is both on and the off. So I think that is that's really the end of my presentation. I don't know how I did with respect to time, but.
No, you did fantastic. So this is the point where the audience gets to ask questions. Just raise your hand, either for myself or Alex on that side. So we'll start right here.
So your branding is great. My question is, being that you picked up the Roughnecks, what was your intellectual property journey from picking up this brand that was maybe, what happened to it? What was the process that you went through to reacquire the Roughnecks name and any potential branding, and what issues did you run into, and how are you going to keep that branding going forward?
We were really lucky. Prodigal, the ownership group that I told you about previously, had secured the brand rights and the licensing rights of Tulsa Roughnecks prior to our ownership in that. That was an attractive thing as well. We felt like that was an opportunity potentially that we would want to go down, the soccer community would want to have again and resurrect again. And we were very fortunate that they were able to secure those rights and marks and the name primarily, the right to use. The only hiccup that we had initially was somebody had secured the domain name TulsaRoughnecks.com. So if you notice, some of our web domain is Tulsa Roughnecks FC.com, which stands for football club, kind of a European thing, but certainly the rich history of the European soccer has kind of influenced some of the things that we're doing from a brand standpoint. So we were very fortunate. We didn't have to do a lot of work. Prodigal had done a lot of that work previously, and I'm not privy to all the activities and things that they had down there. So.
Okay, I have another question from Jillian here.
I have a question about your fan base. How have you worked to build that? What's your strategy been, and what does that look like going forward?
Great question. The demographic profile of a core minor league baseball fan and a core soccer fan are distinguishably different. On the baseball side of things, our core fan from a minor league baseball perspective is really a young family, married with a couple of kids, generally under the age of 12, and then a strong secondary demographic on the baseball side is kind of empty nesters, folks that have a little more disposable income to bring the grandkids out, to bring the wife out, they can finally relax a little bit and have a little bit of disposable income and enjoying their lives together. Soccer's demographic profile really is a millennial, a young professional. That's the core soccer fan in North America, and that's very much a growing population in Tulsa. Thai Pros and the Tulsa Chamber are really trying to galvanize that community. It's been tremendously successful. So that's the core audience that we're trying to continue to tap into. You know, it can be a very fickle audience from an advertising and a move to action. Those things happen organically, I think, in those communities. They want to have influence. They want to feel like they're making a difference. And so what we're trying to do is go out in the community and ask those folks, what do you want this thing to look like? How do you want it to take shape? Both from a game experience standpoint, how do they want to watch the game? How do they want to participate in the game? Soccer's got some very different things to it that make it fun and unique. There's an opportunity for tailgating. There's an opportunity much more for a party-like atmosphere. The focus of the games at One Oak Field for soccer matches is very much intently on the game itself. There's drinking and there's fun going on, there's music going on, but everybody's got their eyeballs on the field. Whereas if you come and watch a baseball game, people are visiting socially, they're having some drinks, they're having some food, they're visiting, and a little bit of the baseball on the field. So it's, you know, they're really different audiences. We continue to feel like we have a strong relationship with many of the youth sports teams, that those things will continue to drive our attendance. Continuing to find ways to grow our supporters club, which is kind of the group that is that young professional, the diehard soccer fans, if you will. Those diehard soccer fans come strongly, they attend very well, they watch our games on the road, they participate in social media, they refer people to come to the games, they refer people to become brand ambassadors for you. So developing that supporters club is very, very important, we feel like, over the course of the long-term future. We're really trying to have that and allow them ownership in that organization, because that's their club. That's, you know, we want them to take ownership in the Tulsa Roughnecks club. That's their team. So I think we've continued to do a pretty good job of that. Now we need that to continue to grow organically in size. And then I think continue to have what we feel like is the best venue to come watch any sports, outdoor sports at One Oak Field. We think that'll be a nice asset for us as well, because there's still a lot of people that haven't yet attended any event at One Oak Field, and we want to make sure that soon everybody does, whether it's baseball or soccer.
All right, we have a question over here.
Yes.
Having a baseball background, how are you guys transitioning from a management standpoint to talent evaluation, to how you set up the field? I mean, I can only imagine the difficulty. I mean, I'm not necessarily a soccer guy, and even if I was, I think it would be very, very tough to evaluate talent, bring good talent in, keep the product on the field at a high level. How are you guys doing that with your baseball background?
Well, soccer, as you indicated, we are responsible for talent evaluation and signing players and putting the product on the field. Unlike in baseball, that's what our Dodgers relationship is, that affiliation with the Dodgers. The Dodgers handle all the players on the driller side. They make the movements, they pay the big signing bonuses that you read about and hear about. The Dodgers, they're actually Dodgers employees that wear drillers' uniforms. So those guys move up and down. So we are responsible for that on the soccer side. We have one of our VPs that has been with the organization for almost 30 years now, is a diehard soccer fan. He's kind of taken the lead role from a director of operations standpoint for us on the soccer side. But really, we've invested in David Irving, who is our head coach. And the head coaches in this team really are responsible for scouting, talent evaluation, and player development. And so we put a lot of trust in David Irving and give him the resources to go out and travel and to scout. And he has a strong network. These head coaches have a very strong network in other professional leagues and other soccer teams and leagues, European, Brazil. So David's got a very strong connection to bring in new talent and get new talent. We've got 5 or 6 international players on our team. So it's not just simply a localized effort. We're very proud of Christian Mata, who is a local product in Tulsa, went to Tulsa Union High School, played at the University of Tulsa. He's one of our best players, literally fantastic goal scorer. So it's nice to have some local flavor, but it simply won't sustain, most probably being just focused in Tulsa.
Have another question over here.
So you, I think, just answered on the player side. Are the players previously professional? Are they students out of schools who excelled? And I don't understand the quantity either. Are there 10, 20 per team or what? Yeah.
There's about 18 approximately under contract with the Roughnecks right now. We have a couple of players at times that are still on trial with us that are continuing to train with the team but haven't yet signed contracts kind of under the evaluation, but still near the end of the season. The first part of that question is, was what again?
Are they previously?
Yeah, do you agree with
What's their
that?
experience like? Most of them have been college players and have had some experience at the professional level. You know, we do have a blend currently on the roster of veteran players that may have 2, 3, 4 years worth of professional playing experience, blended with some kids that are right out of college. And I think that's what David Irving wanted to develop was kind of a spectrum of experiences to the folks that know how to play professional soccer and kind of the grind that goes along with traveling to Vancouver and to Seattle and to being on your game with respect to those things. Good question.
All right, question in the back here.
Jason, I want to follow up with social media since your target market apparently is the millennials and the young professionals. So what is the overall marketing in social media?
Well, I don't know the numbers right offhand, but I know that we're continuing to grow on the Twitter side, probably more than the Facebook side. We're doing some things. Instagram is a very popular market for those millennials, so I think we're trying to build a little bit of a different social media base than we are on the baseball side, simply because that's what our audience is used to. I think we've been satisfied to a certain extent with the quantity of this particular number, of the number that we currently have, but we feel like, again, that can really grow exponentially as we continue to provide the type of content that they're looking for. I think that's, for us, the critical challenge is you want to have two-way interaction with the millennials from a social media perspective. We're seeing some of that. Again, that has to kind of grow organically. We don't want to force those things to happen, so we've been relatively patient with some of the things that we're doing. We're not trying to be hokey, we're trying to be really authentic and give them the type of content from a social media perspective that we feel like works for them. Does that answer your question?
All right, question in the back here.
Yes.
Okay, we've had like the Talons and the Shock, and they're leaving town or they've left town. Do you have to deal with any aversion to fans flocking to a new brand, like a new team brand in town?
You know, ultimately it's sustainable because the business model works. People are supporting us from a corporate sponsorship standpoint, supporting us from a season ticket standpoint, and supporting us from an individual ticket purchasing standpoint. Ultimately, at the end of the day, if the sports team isn't profitable, it will probably fold. But I think that our ownership has patience for those things and isn't expecting it to be profitable right off the get-go. That they realize it's a long-term investment in this. And on the driller side of things, I think that they understand the Tulsa market pretty uniquely, and we don't have any. We understand that you got to do things the right way. So we don't have any misconceptions about just simply opening the doors and expecting them to come. We got to work at it. We know that.
Great, another question over here.
What are the MLS and the Roughnecks in particular doing to mirror the success of the South American football leagues and the football leagues in Europe? How can you bring that to the United States and Tulsa in particular?
Well, there's a strong affiliation relationship between the MLS and our league. One of the things that our league has in agreement with them is a sales center that helps train salespeople on a universal approach to the sales plan and the sales strategy. That's a very strong indicator. The MLS, USL teams and ownership and executive management to the things behind the scenes from an MLS standpoint that are about the game day experience, coming early, tailgating, participating with young family games and kicking games and free tchotchke giveaways and experiencing the game collectively at the major league level. We have conference calls with them to help have us help better understand the core soccer audience. I think really what the MLS has understood is that they know who their audience is very strongly and kind of what they want. There's been good two-way dialogue between who the MLS core audience, the core fan is. And we feel like it's very similar in Tulsa, but we've got to still continue to identify what's happening in Tulsa. So we feel like there's some of that onus is still on us to make sure that we're evaluating some things that are unique to the Tulsa market.
All right, question over here. All right.
You've already alluded to the lack of profitability so far. What does your road to profitability look like, and has your ownership management group given you a specific runway, either a number of years before you have to become profitable or an amount of money that you're allowed to burn through before you can become profitable?
We have not had those discussions really. I don't know that year one is going to be a profitable endeavor here. I don't think it's going to be tremendously in the hole. There really have not been success, there's not been a plan of when are we going to get out of this thing. I mean, I really think they have a long-term vision on it and have a lot of positive, foresight about it. We have not at all discussed when this thing, has to turn around or else. Not even been in discussion.
All right, question right here.
Do you guys have an affiliates association with another MLS team, or is that in the making somewhere?
There was a lot of discussion prior to last year about that. No, we do not have an affiliate. It provides some different challenges and some different opportunities. We can talk about it maybe afterwards from a player perspective, but no, we do not have. We're an independent group.
Okay, I have a question over here.
Being two organizations that are basically one, what kind of issues have you come across, I guess, from an organizational standpoint? Obviously, you have on a Driller shirt right now. You mentioned that one of your VPs of the Drillers is a soccer fan, so he's kind of, there seems to be a lot of intertwined. I think a lot of probably entrepreneurs that are here would have multiple ideas or multiple brands. How do you handle managing multiple, two-headed monster, so to speak?
It's a great question. One, I don't have enough Roughnecks gear because all the Roughnecks gear is built for a nice tight-fitting, young guy. That's not me. I don't look good in Roughnecks gear. Y'all don't want me in Roughnecks gear right yet. I think one of the big advantages that ownership had initially was that there would be very much an economy of scale by bringing on an additional team. And that we've got a front office in place, we've got game day people in place, we don't have to go out and hire a bunch of people in order to get this thing up and off the ground, which is a major expense at times. So I think where one of our shortcomings has been, now that we're through, or just about through our first year, is that we probably didn't allocate enough staff resources to the soccer side, and that we felt like we could rely on this dual role, and that everybody would be able to think about things from a baseball perspective and then uniquely to a soccer perspective. And a couple of people within the office can, but most of them by and large are not able to put on different hats. And that we really need to allocate more resources to get more entrenched in the community, to have more people that are selling just Roughnecks and not dual selling roles. So we're in the process right now of adding some additional staff and to building and growing what we think needs to be more centric focus on the Roughnecks.
Okay, I have a question about your question.
Yeah, I just had a question about the feel of being at the game. I feel like soccer is, it's different. It's different from baseball, it's different from football. Is there anything that you're going to do during a game to kind of create maybe a different feel, or are you just going to rely on the inherent differentness of soccer itself? Like, for example, a baseball game or something would have like an 80s rock song playing during a break or something like that. Are you going to differentiate soccer and kind of like bring it up to the level of differentness that it is?
Well, I mean, we're still learning. We surely don't have all the answers right now. We want to continue to enhance the game experience. I think we need to know what have some suggestions on things that our supporters club and folks that have influence on that, what they want to have it look and feel like. The field itself isn't as close to the action as many soccer venues are. So that's just going to be a difference in terms of proximity to the field, given the current state that we're in with respect to One Oak Field. What I like about that is the fact that some of the closest places to watch the game tend to be some of the cheaper seats. So what we're seeing is some people that come and enjoy it from that perspective. Our game experience, again, we're not probably playing as much music. We're probably not doing as much crowd prompting, and we're continuing to learn some of those aspects. So those things kind of came together a little bit later in the process and the evolution of what we've done than some of the other things that we've done from a management perspective. And this off season, we're actually hosting a USL League meeting at One Oak Field to talk about operations, to talk about branding, to talk about marketing and game experience. We've got some fantastic tools at our disposal with respect to digital video boards and fascia boards and things that we could bring to life more the entertainment experience. So yeah, we still have some room to grow. If that answers your question.
Question on the right over here.
Thank you for coming, by the way. I would assume that you've come to the games a time or two.
This is my last question, I promise. From a turf management perspective, soccer is a little rougher on grass than baseball is. What type of considerations have you had to deal with in the groundskeeping to keep the field up to standard for baseball while keeping it adequate for both sports?
Well, about 80% of the field for soccer happens in the outfield areas. Outfield can have a lot of traction. There's a lot of space in that area. The outfield has not gotten quite as torn up as the infield has. The infield's a real sensitive side for baseball. For those that haven't come out, the field basically runs, one goal is just along the right, almost parallels the right field line or the first base line. And the other goal is out in left field. There it is right there, actually. There's the layout of the stands. And we put in real turf over the dirt areas, which is a major expense organizationally. And we work with the company, kind of consult this out and hire this out, folks to do a lot of golf landscaping work so that they are able to grade the dirt so that it meets flush with the outfield grass. And that process of laying that sod, laying that turf down annually is a pretty major expense. It doesn't work great because economically it makes better sense for us to get as many games in while that one turf, that expense is put in. So we're asking, a lot of times we have an opportunity because the baseball team's coming back in town shortly to try to squeeze 2 games in on a Thursday or a Saturday or a Friday or a Sunday. And that's not to the biggest advantage for the players on the field. They need a little bit more recuperation time. So we know that's a little bit of a disadvantage that our team is in directly. The infield has taken a little bit of a beating this season. We've had a lot of rain, had an unusually amount. We have never put the tarp on the field more in the history of the Drillers organization. We did this year, which has caused us to have a little bit of, what happens is there's a little bit of fungus that grows because the tarp is on the field, there's moisture under there. And so that's not been good. So I think what we're doing in recognizing is we may have to make some additional investments in a change out of the infield, potential change out of the outfield, maybe sooner than we had originally thought, which are major expenses. We'll be able to share with both organizations. They won't all fall on the Roughneck side. So.
Okay, I have a question over here.
Kind of similar to what the guys over here. Besides the marketing aspects, what steps are you guys taking to kind of create culture that's just unique to the Roughnecks experience at a game? I know you kind of talked about tailgating, but stuff outside of that that you can get only here.
Yeah, I think that's what our supporters club is focused on, continuing to build that game experience, build the fan experience. There's been a lot of communication from MLS teams that you don't want to push down to the audience what's going to be happening. We don't want to create what these traditions will become. We don't want to tell them what they should be doing. I think that this millennial audience, in large part, wants to do it their own way, and they want to create their own traditions. And that's really what the intent, and that's what we're trying to allow the supporters club is some freedoms, we're helping support them a little bit financially. We want to have them grow organically and let them establish what the things are, what the game experience is going to be like, and how they can be a soccer fan in Tulsa. So that's a supporter club. I think it's a supporter club value there.
Okay, one question over here.
So I've been to a couple games. I really loved it. It was really fun. The structure of leagues in the U.S. as far as baseball goes is pretty clear. Soccer is not as clear. I do know the USL feeds into the MLS. But where does a team like the Tulsa Athletics, where do they fit in? Do they feed into the USL? Are they a completely separate league? What is the relationship there, if there is one?
Currently, there is not any direct affiliation with the NPSL, that organization, the league that the athletics are in. There have been other cities and other communities throughout the country that do have a handshake agreement for player development. That is an amateur team that's over the athletics. We support them 100%. We hope they have success. We don't feel like there's cause for concern at this moment. We want to have a working relationship, and we love one day for us to be able to share players that may not be getting enough quality soccer time on our team may be able to play for the athletics. Players that are advancing on the athletic side that may be able to feed Tulsa. We hope that will happen so that we can have an agreement with them, so we're good working partners in improving and putting the best product on both fields. But it's not there yet. Great question.
Okay, so final question is one that you probably anticipate. What can we as the entrepreneur, one-of-a-kind community do for the Roughnecks?
Well, I think spreading the word is probably important. Obviously, coming and attending the games would be critical. Our season ticket purchases, that's going to be the core strength for us is en masse. It's not the same thing on the baseball side. Season tickets for the Roughnecks is about a 15-game commitment over the course of about 5 months. It's about 3 games a month on premier week, weekend dates primarily, either Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, sometimes on a Sunday. So they're fitting really well from a scheduling standpoint. They're affordable. I think they're probably $10, $12, $15 per game. They're very reasonable. We need that season ticket base to grow significantly. Referrals. If you've been there before, tell other people to come. That's again how we realize this thing will grow organically. One thing that we're currently seeing on the Roughneck side that we don't see quite as much on the baseball side is advanced ticket purchases. People coming out to the soccer matches and enjoying them with their company, with their church group, with their field trip group, with that's really what drives the drillers' attendance are these group sale opportunities where they come out and enjoy the party deck together. Many of you guys might have come from a corporate event standpoint to come watch a drillers game. Those things haven't yet taken place. So if your organization, your company, people that you work with, people that you have social relationships with can come out and attend the soccer match and have some food and have some drink and participate in that will really help us grow considerably. Corporate sponsorships are also going to be at the root success of this thing long term. These things are not in the 6 figures, 7 figures. We still realize this is very much Tulsa, and that there are some opportunities from a corporate and advertising and sponsorship standpoint that allow you to have significant ROI. So if you've got an interest personally in getting involved really kind of on the ground floor as this thing continues to blossom and continue to grow, we certainly would appreciate any corporate advertising or sponsorship support as well. Those things would be critical to our success.
All right. We're just going to run through some quick announcements. If you are not already on our newsletter,